Hello, I'm Doug Smith, and this is the 12 December 2014 edition of Portsmouth This Week, the voice of Portsmouth Town Hall. Our special guests today are Ann Riley, the new school superintendent, and Tom Kenworthy, who's even newer, assistant superintendent. Welcome, both of you. Welcome you back to the show, and Tom, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Very good, very interesting things in the press about you coming over here, and I think everybody's kind of excited about that. I just wonder if we could start maybe by introducing yourself to the audience.
Sure. So thank you, Doug. I'm very happy to be here in Portsmouth as well. I came most recently, I was the principal of North Kingstown High School, and I had just started my 5th year there. So prior to that, I started my career as a social studies teacher at the high school level. I worked at both LaSalle Academy and North Kingstown High School as a teacher. I tried to do various things as a teacher to develop my leadership skills, and I coached football and softball were my main sports, that kind of thing. Eventually I took a job as an assistant principal at the middle school level in Cumberland, and did that for a couple of years and was able to be promoted to a principalship in that district, so I served as a middle school principal for a number of years. And then I had a great opportunity in between my time in Cumberland and coming back to North Kingstown as a principal, where I get to work in a fellowship at the Department of Education. This was kind of prior to Commissioner Gist coming in, and a lot of the focus shift once she came in with Race to the Top, which you may have heard of, which has really transformed education in our state. But they used to have these fellowship positions, and they would take mainly teachers out of the classroom, but they always had one position they tried to fill from a current principal at some level. So when that came open, I was able to get that position, and I did that for a couple of years, which was just a great experience. Yeah, great experience, being able to see everything on the state level, all the districts across the state. And so it was from there that I then went back to North Kingstown High School. Now
somehow you're able to get a doctorate of education at Johnson Wales.
Yeah, during my time in Cumberland, once I think probably like a lot of people who are in our positions, you come into this first as a teacher, and that's kind of what you want to do. And so teaching and coaching, I love doing that. But at some point, I had gotten my master's degree in school administration, and the right administrative position comes open, so that was that assistant principal position for me in Cumberland. And once I was sure that that's what I wanted to do, it was during my time in Cumberland that I started that educational leadership program at Johnson & Wales and was able to complete it.
Well, that's great.
Yeah,
one of the things that I liked about your resume was that you're in the Marine Corps. I'm a retired Navy guy.
Yeah.
And of course, if you were Air Force, I'd probably say something else.
A lot of connection there.
But most
Marine
of us
Corps
are
and
Navy.
Navy.
Most of us are Navy in here.
Sure.
But I think that Marine Corps training and background and experience will be useful to you.
It was. It was just I went into it. I was in the Marine Corps Reserve. The time when I talk about my service, just to put it in context, it's kind of unbelievable. I was in, I did 6 years total, about a year of active duty with boot camp and all of the trainings, but it was after the first Gulf War and before 9/11. So talk about it was a different time.
Luck of the draw.
Right.
That's all. Nothing wrong with that.
And just when my enlisted reserve time came up, I'd used that to work my way through college, and I had started my career in education. So I decided to continue down that path, and like I said, just it was a different day.
That's good. I wish more kids would look at the military as they're getting out, because you'll learn so much, I think, about yourself, mainly.
You do. It's a great building block for whatever you want to do in life.
Now, maybe between you could explain what each of you does and how you cut up the division of labor here in the school department?
So I think the role of superintendent and assistant superintendent probably looks different in every district. Because it's based upon the experience and expertise of the two people who make that team. And really, in our district, right now we have a team of 3, because I would include our business administrator, Chris Dioro, in our team. And so I think that's always the lens that I look at it through as a superintendent. What am I looking for in an assistant superintendent? What would I expect Tom's role to be in helping me to lead the district? So like I said, in some districts, they're very divided responsibilities. In big districts, sometimes it's the assistant superintendent covers the elementary and the superintendent does middle and high school. It's literally a splitting of duties. For us, because we have the benefit of having a town and a district that are relatively small in size, we really can co-op many of our duties. But Tom takes the lead on our grant work, so all of our CRP work around Title I and our teacher quality grants, and also, until we have a special ed director, Tom would manage all of our IDEA grants. And Tom really takes the lead on curriculum in the work with the schools and the principals and the teachers. But as a team, we collaborate regularly on all of the things that are going on in the district, specifically in relationship to the strategic plan that's been laid out for the next goals of the school district.
Yeah, I was quite impressed. You've been busy over the last several months.
Yes.
I know you put together this strategic plan. I had a chance to look at it. It looks very interesting. And I guess I just wondered, is this a new plan, or is it a kind of a carry-on of an older plan?
So Tom and I both inherited this plan. This actually was prepared just before the final approval of the plan came, I think, in my very first weeks here in Portsmouth. However, what I want to say is this was a draft plan when I was applying for the position of superintendent here in Portsmouth. And it's one of the things that attracted me to Portsmouth, for the very things that you just said about it. It's very ambitious, and there are a lot of really great targets in here for students, targets that I believe in, experiences that I believe in for kids, and it's one of the things that attracted me to Portsmouth. Now, I kind of see these are the dreams, these are the goals, and now it's up to Tom and I to make them real.
Right.
How do we make this happen?
And that's the hard part.
Yes.
Where the rubber meets the road, I think.
You got it.
That's where the work is. Yes.
Yeah. Now, how is the strategic plan basically looks out 5 years to 2019?
Sure.
How was this created? Was it done by a committee or
Yes.
folks?
So there were a committee of folks who worked on this, led by a subcommittee of the school committee. Emily Copeland headed that subcommittee. Sure. And they did do a lot of work with the stakeholders in the community, with teachers, with administrators, with parents. They had public meetings of the school committee, of the subcommittee, to get input and feedback on this. So I think this was a very thoughtful process that led to this final product that you see.
Was there any public comment or anything on this? I got it because somebody sent it to me, which was great because I could figure out what we're going to be talking about. But
sure. Since Tom and I weren't here at the meetings, I can only presume we usually do have public comment at most of our meetings. So I would assume that
it was discussed in the school committee meetings,
oh, yes.
which were public meetings.
Yes.
Which are public. Now
Right.
it's on the website, obviously, for anybody to access.
Right, and all the subcommittee meetings are public and posted. So, but we weren't actually physically there, so I guess I can't tell you what it looks like.
But that's okay because now you can take on the hard part.
That's right.
Trying to make it real, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe we could discuss. We couldn't discuss the whole thing. We'd be here for 3 days.
Right.
But maybe the key points of the plan and where you see it taking us.
Sure. So I think it's a very, like I said, it's a very exciting. It's also a very ambitious plan for the district, and it revolves around 5 goals. And one of the things that I hope that we can do on this show is be able to show you over time how we're working towards accomplishing each of those goals.
Please. You're welcome to come.
Yeah, so I think that would be really helpful for folks to know what's the progress. Hey, you talked about these. Now, where are we now at the end of each year? So goal number 1, simply stated, says every student will learn at high levels. So what does that mean? What will that look like? And I'm going to tell you how, right out of the gate, how Tom and Chris and I are looking at what does this look like in the district, and how are we going to measure that, and how are we going to report back and say, here's where we think we are now, and here's how we think we can move. So we're using really probably the simplest format you can think of. We're walking through the schools. We're in every school every week. We've created a calendar for the 3 of us where we go into the schools, and we walk through classrooms with the principals, and the 3 of us take notes on really the level of rigor we see. And we're using a very simple tool. We're using Bloom's taxonomy. We're really hoping to see kids working at those higher levels. Analysis, synthesis, creation, what's happening in those classrooms. And we just keep very clean data, not specific, not classroom number 407 was here, but just some tabs for us on what we saw and what level of rigor it was at, so that in about 6 weeks we can take a summary of that and just say, okay, so we visited about 50 classrooms. What was the range of what we saw?
Yeah.
And then we talk to the principals about what we see in those visits, and we just try to push their thinking. So how can we support that staff in taking that great work they were doing and pushing it one more level? How can we keep pushing that?
Yeah, it's always been interesting. I think a lot of people are interested in how you measure student achievement. I mean, it's been a very big national thing here recently.
And we tend to hear those the words, the kneecap,
yeah,
the PARCC
kneecap
exam,
The testing
but that
scores.
happens once a year. If that's all we're counting on to give us a
We're not going to
measurement,
get much of a database.
right, right.
The second goal I thought was equally, and I'm just speeding on only
Sure.
because there's so much to talk
Yeah,
about.
we want to get to all 5.
But to me, that is the key one. On graduation, all Portsmouth students are well prepared to embark on their intended college or career pathway. That's absolutely the bottom line, I think, of education today. And if we can do this would be great. But again, I think the question is going to be, and kind of how are you doing this? There are opportunities, as you know, to partner with people like Roger Williams University, Salve,
Sure.
probably URI and others as well, to kind of help out doing some of that stuff. And I assume that those are the kind of things you're thinking about in that category.
So those are some of the things. Certainly we have partners within the universities that we're working with, and we're hoping to broaden those out. Dual enrollment went through a change with the Board of Education, so we'll be looking at those opportunities in the hopes of beefing up dual enrollment for all of our students at all the universities, either at Rhode Island College or at CCRI or
really?
Roger
Okay.
Williams. So all of those places.
That's great.
In addition, we are trying to continue to grow our community partners. So I sit on the USEF board, the Undersea Science and Engineering Foundations board, and we're creating opportunities for our students to be exposed to the work that they do and to see the possibilities in the engineering field. And that's another opportunity that's growing and blossoming for the district. We also work with the East Bay Collaborative and bringing those opportunities to the district, particularly around professional development currently. Those are some of the pieces, but there are lots of opportunities. We also have, even in the schools, levels of involvement from community members. The middle school just ran a few weeks ago a career day where they had folks in from all careers and walks of life coming in to talk to students about what that looks like. The high school tries to do that they have pride blocks. And they try to bring someone in. Actually, Chief Lee, our own police chief, was in this month during the Pride Block talking to students about opportunities, both a little bit about himself and some opportunities in law enforcement. Yeah. And the elementary at their level tries to do the same thing. And so I'll use Chief Lee as another example. He was in our elementary schools reading to students, but building that relationship around, who is the chief of police and what does he do and how is he a part of our community. So I think we have lots of relationships in addition to partnerships with universities that will help expose students to all those career paths, because we really want them to have that broad range. And maybe Tom can talk a little bit about some of the things we do at the high school that are a little deeper than that for students.
Sure. So like you said, I mean that's I think the goal for every district to be focused on. We want to number one, graduate all of our students. That should be our focus, but to make sure that they're the key term in this day and age is college or career ready. So, definitely the majority of our students in a district like Portsmouth are going to leave our high school and go on to college, but not in all cases. And in some cases, if they are just going to go directly into the workforce, or if they do go to some sort of technical training or college, what kind of career path are they going to embark on there? So we want to make sure that all students are as ready as possible for that. The high school, one of the things Portsmouth High School has, as a lot of high schools in Rhode Island do, is a senior project that all students must complete before graduating. A lot of times that the staff that works with them really tries to have that tied into what their either a college major or career interest is going to be. I think another big initiative in Portsmouth that's tied into that goal that I was happy to see kind of where the district was at, as I know Anna probably was around our STEAM initiatives.
Right.
STEAM, and you see it linked very heavily in that goal. STEAM is kind of the marriage of what had been a big focus for a number of years around STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. And now the STEAM part is the A is bringing in the arts, so that we don't lose focus and sight of a lot of the great things that happen there. And there's a lot of opportunity to collaborate within those areas. And you know, the students that we have now that are going to be going out into college and the workforce, you know, those STEAM careers are going to be the majority of the pathway students are going to head down. So we have a lot of initiatives currently in the district to make sure that we're preparing students on that path.
Well, that's great, because we really do need to leverage the tech industry that we have here on the island. I mean, you know, the military has all these companies and other people doing far out advanced technology things. Those are great jobs in the future for our kids.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot there in that one little category.
Yes.
You want to talk about the next one? The next one is leadership, which is a little bit harder to define, I think. But
Sure. So effective leadership of human capital, and I think what the goal is for this particular objective is that we really bring our staff together to have opportunities to collaborate. If you think about education, if I think about education, you can't even say 20 years ago, 10 years ago, many teachers worked in isolation. They were in their classrooms, they might eat lunch with some other teachers, but otherwise they were very involved in the work that was going on in their own classroom from the start of the day to the end of the day. And there weren't a lot of opportunities for teachers to talk together about what they were doing in their classrooms. And Portsmouth embarked last year, it might have been even the year before that, on professional learning communities. And what a professional learning community does is provide opportunities for teachers to come together and talk about what they're doing at their grade level or in their content area, and to support each other in best practices. So looking at their students' work and saying, gee, these are some really great, you know, essays in your room. Your students really have the narrative essay down packed. You know, what were some of the things you did to get this level of work from your students? And they share those ideas and bring them back to their own classrooms. And so that way they can build on each other's strengths, because we all have strengths and weaknesses. We're just creating opportunities for teachers to be able to come together and share those best practices. And that can be very powerful. The trick is to find as many of those opportunities as we can within their workday, because there's so much crammed into a school day. So our principals have been really creative with their scheduling and with their staffing to be able to create those opportunities, from the elementary school teachers meeting by grade level all the way to the high school. Bob Littlefield and his team have really been terrific at finding opportunities in the schedule for those not only content areas, but folks who teach within the same specific subject, so that the algebra teachers actually can all get together instead of just globally saying, well, most of the math teachers are free at this time, but actually digging down and finding opportunities for folks who teach the same or similar content to be together and have those conversations. So that's a lot of what drives the leadership of human capital. It's building that strength and building the instruction for opportunities for those discussions with our staff.
And I think the next two essentially relate to plant and money, you know, and maintaining the infrastructure we have, making it even better.
Absolutely.
That's particularly important, I think, in the tech area, which I see you guys are doing. And that's kind of a segue. Before we get to that, I just wanted to talk. I love these goals for schools, for student success after school. Ensure that all Portsmouth students are aware of post-secondary career and technical education. You know, as a parent, you'll want your kid to get a good job when they get out of school. And then there's a bunch of stuff, and there are two that I'm particularly fascinated with, as you know, is financial literacy training, but also computer programming technology. It's going to be very difficult to keep up on that kind of stuff, because it's changing, like, you know, weekly almost, it seems like.
Absolutely. So we, as a district, participated this week in the Hour of Code, which was a national movement to expose students to coding and kind of that initial interest and excitement in programming for students. So we did participate in that program from elementary all the way through the high school. Portsmouth also did it last year. So this is their second year of doing the Hour of Code. And it's really meant to build excitement around doing that work. And we want to create as many opportunities. We don't want it to just be the Hour of Code. We want to figure out how we can make that multiple hours of code over time.
Sure.
We offer a programming class at the high school, but we need to broaden that out. How can we continue to expose students? There are opportunities, online opportunities, enrichment opportunities, but since it's going to become part of their literacy conversation, we need to make it a part of their regular conversation.
Now, what have you heard in feedback from kids that have gone through that Hour of Code?
Oh, they love it. If you're on Twitter, or anyone who's on Twitter and follows any of our schools, they put up some great photos of the kids just engaged and diving right in.
That's the key. The key is engagement, I think.
And as we walk through the schools, I mean, I was in my focus this week, because I talked about our Every School, Every Week initiative was at the elementary level, and just seeing, because this was the Hour of Code week, I was able to see some of the things that were happening, and the kids are just really engaged in what's going on.
Well, that's great. I think that's the key thing to try to do, is get people enthusiastic about what they're learning, because there's so many opportunities out there. People would just look at them,
Right.
I assume that along with this strategic plan, the capital improvement plan that was just approved generically, I guess, last week, it relates to this plan, presumably. What are some of the key items in that?
So we did present at our school committee meeting this week a capital improvement plan, and it has two components, a technology component and then really a facilities component. We just had a comprehensive study done by RGB, an engineering company, to kind of give us a whole picture look at the district, both within the next 5 years and further out. Once those 5 years are up, what other things would be on our list. And we shared that report at the previous meeting, and the number when we shared that large report from RGB was 18 million, a number that
scary.
Certainly would make anyone's eyebrows go up when you say 18 million. So what we did was take that as our background for making sure we didn't miss any items, because RGB was very comprehensive. And so we took that list and we met with our facilities staff and just looked at what are the things that are most important. Number one, for health and safety of our students and staff, and then to continue to grow our classroom environment into productive places for learning. And so we really did tone that number down significantly, because we know that there's not an endless vat of money somewhere that allows us to do everything on the list.
Unless the state of the feds come through, which I doubt.
Right. So we were able to really wean down for the next 5 years the items that really must be done in order to maintain the health and safety of our students, and that is really where our focus was. And so for FY16, really those numbers are relatively small. We're at about $490,000 in needed necessary repairs around the district. That does not include, we're working with the town on a project with National Grid around possibly getting our boilers replaced and some of our HVAC systems replaced through grants and partnership. So we're really hoping that that will come through, because otherwise we'll have to readjust that capital plan, because we didn't address things like boilers. Particularly some of our boilers we're concerned about, because we've gone way beyond their useful life. A boiler's useful life can be from 20 to really maybe 30 years. One of our boilers is 70 years old.
70 years
so
old.
we are on borrowed time with that boiler. So, but we're really hoping that the opportunity for the grant and the programming with the town and National Grid will be there, so that we can rely on them versus having to bring that to our capital plan. But if need be, we'll have to bring it back and put those into our capital plan. The other component is the technology, which, as you mentioned, with programming and coding, that's always changing, it's always upgrading. We have, to maintain our technology, to maintain both the infrastructure and a refurb cycle for a refresh cycle for our computers, because we want our students to have machines that they are reliable and that give them the exposure and the experiences that they need to be successful in today's environment.
I was just curious when I was looking at the thing about computers and replacing old computers.
Sure.
Can those be reused by anybody, or what
Sure.
do you do with old computers?
We do reuse them. So one of the things that we do is cannibalize them, take the parts that still work or can be used and use those to repair.
So that's something your tech people would be doing.
Sure. And the other thing that we do with some of our laptops is we strip them down, we take all of the info on them that was district information and really make them a very basic computer and offer those to families who don't have
Okay, so
their
they are
own
being
computers.
recycled,
So they are
reused.
being
That's
recycled
great.
and reused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I noticed in the press release, at least about the capital improvement plan, was that it's a plan, but there's no funding yet, no funding sources available. I assume this is something you'll be talking to the town council at some point about.
Correct. So first we wanted to just really put down on paper what the needs were. What are the immediate needs? What are the things that, again, really are relevant to student health and safety? And then kind of outline why we need to have those things done. And now we got to figure out how we're going to pay for it.
Yeah.
So we'll work with the
But you
town
have to
on
lay
a
out
plan
you
for
have to
those
lay out
things.
your
You have to have
needs.
the plan.
Absolutely.
So that's a good start, I think.
Yes.
Very good start.
I agree.
You know, aside from money, which is always going to be a problem
Sure.
forever, what are your other major concerns about Portsmouth school kids or our education system or the district?
Well, I think, I don't know if I would say a concern as our focus. Our focus is always to improve the outcomes for our students. So looking at the metrics that we do have, you know, we talked about the kneecap is just one snapshot in time. But looking at things like the PARCC exam, our SAT scores, our PSAT scores, this year we offered the PSAT to all of our sophomores.
What is a
and
PSAT? I'm sorry.
PSAT, Tom, I'll let you.
Sure. So the SAT exam.
Right, the SAT I'm
right.
familiar with.
So students would take that usually
Ancient history,
junior, senior year. Those scores are used when they're planning college. So it's pre or practice
Okay.
SAT.
Okay,
So
great.
they can usually take that 1 to 2 years prior to taking SAT. And Rhode Island actually did have an initiative a few years ago where statewide we allowed every student to take the PSAT, and then the funding was cut for that, and unfortunately that initiative kind of died out, and then a lot of students will take it on their own, but not all. So I thought it was another great thing when I came in and heard that Superintendent Riley had worked with the school committee and the high school to find a way to have all of our sophomores and juniors, I
Sophomores
believe.
and juniors, and I just want to touch on the merit scholarship.
Sure.
Do you want to share about that?
Yeah. So one of the other things that's a great program is the National Merit Scholar Program, and it's the top scores on the PSAT. So that's the benchmark that they use. So another reason why it's important for all students to have exposure there, because there are some great opportunities that can come along if they score well on that test.
You've got so many really, I think, interesting initiatives going here, and I hope you guys will come back in the program, as we talked about earlier, and send your teachers, your students. They have things that people in Portsmouth need to know. Come on the show, please, and do this. One of the things we definitely need to talk about, I think, is core curriculum, just so somebody can explain it to all the rest of us.
Absolutely.
We're almost out of time, and I want to thank Anna and Tom for coming on the show today. I hope I'd like to wish you and your families a great holiday season.
Thank you. Me too.
Thank you. You too.
And to our viewers, we'll be airing some favorite shows over the holidays, and we'll resume our regular weekly production on 9 January. But from all of us at the Portsmouth This Week in the PEG studio, have a Merry Christmas and a happy and safe New Year. Thank you very much for coming in today.
Thank you.
Sandy Woods Farm is an arts and agricultural community in Tiverton, Rhode Island. There's a lot going on at Sandy Woods. We have art, music, sustainable agriculture, community gardening, classes and workshops. Please check us out on the web and come see us at any time. If you have any questions or would like to volunteer, you can call 401-241-7349.